What in the world is going on at Disney? Let's try and figure out what's gone wrong, the quick version. Disney Plus, despite being the second most subscribed streaming service out there, is not doing very well. Possibly third most subscribed, but any numbers reported by Amazon I don't really trust, so I'm sticking with second. But what exactly do I mean when I say that they're not doing well? They are second after all? Well, basically no streaming service is doing particularly well. But how? It's mostly ad-free, it's cheaper than cable. Everyone loves streaming services. Well, see, the problem is that it's ad-free, and it's cheaper than cable. See, it's been estimated that streaming generates 1/6 the amount of revenue per home as cable TV. Ad revenue. And while some streaming services such as Peacock and others run a couple ads that run for 1-minute intervals during episodes of whatever show, they offer a slightly higher dollar subscription to turn these ads off, therefore offering less reach to advertisers and therefore lowering the ad revenue received from these advertising companies. And while Disney Plus did lose 2.4 million subscribers in the last 3 months of 2022 and reported $1.5 billion on losses for the streaming platform in the same quarter, they also said that they never expected to make a profit on the streaming platform until 2024. And by the way, that's $1.5 billion on losses for the streaming platform, not the $123 billion loss in market value over the course of 2022. So a few things to pick apart from that run-on sentence I just crapped out of my mouth: subscriber count depleting, reported losses on the platform, not expecting to make a profit until next year. Let's start there, because that brings us into the streaming wars, which is something I've been wanting to make a video about for a long time, and we'll briefly talk about here. It seems more and more streaming services are popping up out of nowhere nowadays. Well, of course, it's the new best way to watch TV, but the idea is seemingly that with the rise of bigger streaming services such as Disney Plus, the smaller, lesser subscribed ones such as Peacock, Apple TV, even Paramount Plus, might just start to fizzle out of existence, leaving only a few to rake in all the subs and rake in all the money. However, this was not the case. At least not yet, anyways. First of all, those three I just listed are actually still top 10. They are at the lower end of the top 10, but top 10 nonetheless. You would not believe how many streaming services there really are. It's worth a Google. Go ahead, click away from the video. I'm a small channel, what do I have to lose? And it would appear that these smaller streaming services hanging in there are increasing competition, and Disney's attempts at monopolizing Hollywood and buying every IP left are falling flat. See, streaming services get their hands on really popular IPs and then they double down on them to drive subscriptions. Paramount Plus has Star Trek, HBO Max has the DCEU, Amazon has Lord of the Rings. With Warner Bros. Announcing a reboot, I don't really know what's going on there. And Disney Plus has Star Wars and Marvel. By the way, I totally know what's going on there. Watch this video and I'll tell you about it. Anyways, while there is still a ton of other content on Disney Plus, they really doubled down on these particular IPs to drive subscriptions to the platform. But this comes with its own slew of issues. Motivated by money and money alone, Disney has been vomiting out show after show after show in terms of those big IPs. All the Marvel shows, all the Star Wars shows. For the love of God, don't unsubscribe or you'll miss the next big show. And they have 8 or so short episodes released once a week so that they can keep you subscribed for 2 to 3 months. With the speed at which these shows are being released, quality tends to wane. There could be other reasons for this, but we'll get into that later. With the waning quality of these sorts of shows, die-hard fans get angry and unsubscribe. But this affects casual fans as well, because casual fans are probably more than happy to make an account, watch the show or movie they wanted to watch, then peace out and unsubscribe for the next 8 months, until they hear something interesting is coming out and maybe return for another 2 months or so. This is a big contributing factor to why the streaming service model doesn't work. It's too easy to bail. Which for us is a good thing, but not for the likes of Disney. And sorry to say, we should expect changes in coming years to this model. It just isn't profitable enough for these big companies, and investors realize that. But with all these streaming services clinging on for dear life, none of them want to be the first to break, and just start running full-blown 5-minute ad segments right in the middle of their shows and films. That would lose subscribers, but something's gotta give. We're probably going to end up with something like Fubo being top dog, a live TV streaming service that is ad-supported, films on demand, and doesn't produce its own original, highly costly content. You know, like cable. with a little more convenience. It need be mentioned as well, contributing to the massive loss in subscribers late last year, that Disney lost the rights to the Indian Premier League, which is the biggest cricket league in India. This had previously been a large driver for subscribers, however, the average cost for a subscription to Disney Plus in India is a lot lower than the US. And if you take into account other countries, the average cost goes even lower. In India, you can watch select shows and films on Disney Plus with ads for free. My point is, losing 2.4 million subscribers doesn't even come close to the $1.5 billion loss in revenue for the platform. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention go woke, go broke. As much as I hate this phrasing, this absolutely has a part to play in terms of Disney. And not just when it comes to streaming. There's been a pretty noticeable rise in social and political messaging in film and TV, especially for the likes of big companies like Disney. I guess when you spend so much time in Hollywood surrounded by people who think the exact same as you and don't dare say otherwise, it's easy to assume that the majority of the country, or the world for that matter, espouse the same social and political beliefs. And this couldn't be further from the truth. When you take a definitive stance in terms of social beliefs, especially in media, you alienate, or at the very least irritate, half of the populace. I admit I would be more willing to ignore it if the quality was bearable. Maybe it's because of what I do on this channel, but it's become harder and harder to ignore the subtle hints toward any particular agenda when watching modern film and television. People want quality, not to be preached to. And not to mention, I think a lot of Disney animated movies and shows are paid for by parents for their kids to watch, and they'd prefer some mindless, fun-loving, happy-ending entertainment, rather than be preached to while their kids get bored and wander off. I believe entertainment should exist to entertain, perhaps inspire, and leave it at that. There are universal understandings of what's good, heroic, brave, intelligent, what have you, that can be portrayed on screen to a broad audience and maintain almost worldwide appeal. But when you start to preach at people what they should think, feel, be, it gets exhausting, and Disney, as of late, isn't keeping it subtle enough to ignore. Not to mention, they decided to go political when it came to their stance on a certain Florida bill signed by a certain Florida governor. If you don't know what I'm talking about, that's fine, and if you do, I'm not going to get political here. My point is simply that when a massive multinational media and entertainment organization chooses a side, they're going to upset people. They are going to alienate people. And whether it's the alienation of fans or the convenience of streaming, it is getting harder and harder for Disney films to turn a big profit, if any at all, when they are released in theaters. People are, for a number of reasons, losing interest, and this loss in interest can quite simply account for the aggressive rise in reboots, reimaginings, redressings, all the remakes we've seen in recent years.
Who the hell are you? A baby.
They are safe investments. Sadly, people will show up to the theater to watch them. And even with how frustrating it is to see our once beloved heroes and characters of the past turned into hollow remnants of what they once were, if you slap Lion King or Little Mermaid in big letters on the trailer, nostalgia will kick in and people will inevitably show up. With a rise in inflation and a possible recession on the way, travel to the Disney parks is way down. Managers at the company have been instructed to identify layoff candidates, prepping for an expected 4,000 cuts by April. And CEO Bob Iger recently spoke on his plans when it comes to Marvel and Star Wars, stating quality over quantity in regards to cutting back on future spending, implying that he agrees with the notion that they are producing too much content for little to no return. I know I spent most of this video talking about streaming, but that last 30 seconds basically could have been the entire video. Disney is not in a good place. Let's see where they take it. Well, that's the video, everybody. Please subscribe. I really love making these and I'd like to keep making them, so please subscribe and like the video. If you stuck around this long, I thank you for watching. Have a great day.